Good morning. So I put out a a poll on my blog just around Christmas time, and interestingly, or I found this interesting, the most interested amount of votes was animal spirits, working with animal spirits, animal medicine, as I see it, how I see it, as a medicine. And so with the Chinese New Year, the Lunar New Year, the Uranus direct, the new moon, all having lots of snake serpent energy reference, I thought it would be a good time to tune into this. So really, this is a video about snake energy, snake medicine. And so if you open your mind to the wisdom that snake gives, then apply that to any animal through like some of the things that I share. See how you can apply that to any animal. And then that gives you a really good insight to working with animal spirits. But I probably will write a blog about that one too. So let's get on with the snake. So a lot of the information that people are sharing, like one of the biggest things that everybody is feeling into with the snake energy is this concept of shedding. How a snake has to shed its entire skin that it has outgrown in order to survive. And so I want to touch on this, like how we as humans go through that shedding process, because we're not snakes. We're not going to die if we, and we're not going to lose our skin, right? But the metaphorical message and the symbolism in it is what we are feeling into, looking at. That for me feels, you know, my work, a lot of the basis of my work is digesting the information that the universe gives us and figuring out how we apply it to us, you know, and living that before I then, having the experience of it and living it before I then share it with anybody else. Feeling it, embodying it, integrating it, like digesting it. That's the best word for me if you think about the digestive process. And most importantly with that, the assimilation, because that's when it comes into us as our nutrients, as what's nourished us. So this process of shedding, how do we do that as humans, right? So one thing I've observed, it's when we're going through change, we're going through transition, when we avoid things, they become difficult, right? Sometimes when we resist until we give in and we start to surrender to the situation, sometimes you have to go through that in order to reach that point, because that's the experience, that's how you learn. But what is happening on a deeper level within this 4-body system of ours, right? Feel into this just for understanding this concept. So we have an energetic level, a spiritual level in a sense, right? Our etheric body, how we communicate with spirit, the ether, beyond our physical, our emotional and our mental. So in the physical body, our emotional body, our emotional capacity, our mental body, and then our energetic, spiritual. And so our shedding process begins in the energetics. Okay, so we set something in motion by manifesting what we would like, our desires. All of that begins with in our energetics, right? We set something inside that shifts our blueprint. then that sends out ripples to the others. And this isn't like a straight line process. What I'm saying actually starts with the thoughts of what we want to change, and then that activates the energetic process. I don't want to get too complicated, and I feel like I'm getting too complicated. Just go with me. So energetic blueprint, the ripples start to change, right? Then that starts to create the changes in our lives. This is how we dream things into being. So it's the same with the things that present to us from the universe, from outside of us, to give us the change that we're looking for. Okay, so then we'll have this, that's kind of like the beginning of the shedding. And then we will go through these thought patterns that no longer work. Will come up, you know, everything will be jarring, for example, and the same with emotions. And this is that shedding taking place for us. We have to become aware of the things that don't fit. Okay, so that's what that energetic blueprint, in a sense, is rippling out to us, through those 4 bodies, the other 3 bodies. And then in the physical, you know, it's not necessarily always going to be illness or symptoms. It will be our lives, right? The physical you can kind of see that as the external as well, in terms of things being reflected back to us. And that's a process in itself, isn't it? Because it's reflecting something from within, but it's doing it outside of you so that you can see it and observe it and go, oh, okay, what is this telling me? Okay, so there's this, it's like a letting go of something is a shedding. You know, releasing things that don't fit anymore, don't fit in your life, leaving a job, leaving a partnership, a relationship, a friendship, and doing that for your own values, right? This is all shedding, in a sense. It's just the way that we do it as humans. And then another part of it is finding forgiveness and compassion for yourself and the other person. That's like a part of that process. If you don't go through that part of the process, we hold things, we hold on to it, and that would be like the snake not letting go of its entire skin. So I'll leave that there with the shedding, but I just want to give you that process to feel into, that insight to feel into, that you have to go through it on each of those levels, right? Yeah, like a relationship breaking up, you have to go through, you make the decisions in your mind, your thoughts, then you feel the emotions, and you have to go through that discomfort of shifting the way you've been feeling towards somebody. Then it happens in the physical. The separation takes place, and this is what I mean about it's not a straight line. Sometimes that can be like all over the place. So that, touching on the shedding, that's how it can happen, right? So one of the things I did share in a recent video is, just because it's become the snake year, and just because Uranus has gone direct, which is a lot of great awakener energy, right? And snake energy as well. It doesn't mean that that's now going to start happening for everybody. Some people may have already been deep in this process leading up to this moment, because we all do things in different ways. Just how babies are sometimes early or late or on time. We like, think about how you feel the moon, the effects of the moon. Do you feel it as it's coming, as the full of the new moon is coming, or do you feel it when it's there, or do you feel it after? It's the same as that, right? Any celestial movement, any shift. So now I want to go into what else the snake represents, because for those people who may have already been deep in the process of shedding, this could be your year, right? This could be the things that now start to unfold. So as well as shedding, the snake is also very symbolic for the rebirth side of things. Okay, so this is very shamanic. The shedding, you could change that word for shamanic death, rebirth. And that's when you go from one state of being to another. Okay, the snake, when it starts its shedding, molting process, the first thing that happens, they don't have any eyelids, snakes, and the first thing that happens is their eyes become cloudy. And so ancient mystics and shamans saw this as almost like seeing the snake being able to move from life to death and life again. So they saw this indication of it kind of getting this clouded view over its eyes of going through that process that I've just explained, okay? And then when it would go through all of that shedding, its eyes would then come back to normal with a higher vision, with a new vision, a new way of seeing the world, okay? And that's what happens when we go through these big transformations, isn't it? Like the tower, everything crumbles, you have to sit in it and it feels like forever, and then finally you rise from the ashes, from the rubble. So the other side of it is the rebirth, okay? So and in that phase, what you're doing is all of that process that you have been through is owning it, embodying it, taking it as your experience and your wisdom, so that you can become the new, right? I talk about this a lot, so I'm not going to go into that too much. I don't really think I need to say too much more there, do I? Okay, so what else? Healing. Snakes are seen as well as healing. Let's talk about the Caduceus, okay? The symbol of the Caduceus with the staff and two serpents intertwined around the staff, and they come out at kind of, for me, it's eye level. It's eye level. And then the wings and the kind of like the pineal gland in a sense, isn't it? The symbol on the at the top of the staff, you could see that as the pineal gland, and the path of those snakes crossing at each of the centers, chakras, energy centers, leading to this rising up to this new vision, which tunes into the clouding over of the eyes as you're going through this process, lifting these veils. And then when you've reached that point of that process is over, your new vision comes in, okay? I've had lots of energy, snake serpent energy through most of 2024. Lots of visions for me, inner vision journeys have been serpents wrapping themselves around my arms and my hands and coming out in my fingers and being told to use them. Like if I want to offer healing, I have to do a silent hiss to wake them up and things like this. There's lots of serpent energy, and it's all to teach us, right? The power of healing in your hands, that's what I took from that symbol, that message, yeah? And waking it up, bringing it into a new version of itself, because the micro and the macro, everything that I'm talking about happens on a internal smaller version as well, micro version as well as macro, like the planets representing what we go through. So the Caduceus, I'll come back to that a little bit, but for me the serpents represent the feminine energy and the staff is the masculine energy. That's how I see it, because feminine energy has two different sides. It has a chaotic side and a creative side, and when they're working in harmony and they have something to be magnetized around, the masculine energy, this pillar, that keeps them in flow, in harmony, in the spiral path that is chaos and creation, which is death, rebirth, which is shedding, renewing. Okay, so then let's just follow this thread, the eyes, right? So the serpents, they come up and they end at the eyes in a sense, with this third eye, the inner vision. So this takes us to the senses, right? Snakes smell with their tongues. That's why they flick so much. And they have this organ in their, I think it's in their mouth. And it's called the Jacob's organ or something like that. Do your own research if you really want to know the anatomy of snakes. But and what this organ does, oh, that's interesting. I said the word assimilate earlier. Okay, it helps them to assimilate the smells, and that leads them to prey, to food, to safety, whatever it is that. So their sense organ, which is their tongue, but actually helps them smell, is what leads them where they need to go. So that, for me, what I take from that is like this, the inner senses, yeah, our activating our inner senses to work in harmony together. So you hear of people that can smell color or see, you know, like, it's fascinating to me. But really, all of those senses are feedback systems, aren't they? Helping us to come into that place of, is it claircognizance, when you have that clear knowing? And all of those senses work together to give us that clear knowing. And so the serpent has that. The snake, I keep saying serpent. So using those inner senses as a network, as a union, a harmonious union rather than individually. So senses, head, let's go in the head. So we all hear lots about giant cobras that eat crocodiles or whatever. Yeah, they when snakes eat their prey, so eat their prey, let's not see it as prey, let's see it as nourishment. When a snake nourishes themselves, to be able to do that, they can unhinge their jaw. Okay, I've had a lot of that. I've had the last 6 months through a little bit of stressful stuff going on. My jaw has been locking. It's been really interesting. So when I found out this little snippet of information, it was quite interesting. So they unhinge their jaw to be able to take in that whole piece of nourishment. Okay. And so what this represents is, like, snake medicine allows us to digest big chunks of information, big chunks of wisdom. That's what that taking it in, and it digests slowly and absorbs. So it is really, a snake is a lot about this digestive process, digesting wisdom, it's like, it feels very about the mind, like wisdom, knowledge, learning, facts, formal, you know, that kind of stuff, that you are able to take a big chunk of it. So that's something else to feel into. Okay, venom. So we're at the mouth, we're at digestion, let's do the venom. So poison. Everything is a poison in excess. I think there's some kind of saying, isn't there? Like, even me and my cacao, sometimes maybe I drink too much of it. I don't feel it as a poison. So poison. The wisdom from this, and this is, I take this not verbatim, but from the medicine cards. I love that deck. If you haven't come across it, I don't have it here, but the medicine cards. The snake is about alchemy and healing, and this leads back to the Caduceus as well. So alchemy is turning lead to gold. Change lead and gold to something that doesn't nourish us, something that could be toxic for us, something that could be poisonous for us, into something that can nourish us, right? So the snake and snake medicine people, like shamans, used to get bit over and over again, to allow their bodies to learn the process of transmuting the poison into something that will nourish them, to alchemize it within their system so that they wouldn't feel it as poison. So there's a lot of alchemy here. It's such an old symbol, the snake, you know, the Ouroboros, the serpent unto itself, the infinity, even the uraeus on the headdresses of the pharaohs and the gods and the goddesses of Egypt. Even Tutankhamun has the uraeus with the serpent, and that's the connection to Uranus. As Ruby Faulkner says, they're allied to the Neteru and its Wadjet, who is the snake, and that element is she's the protectress. But it also does represent the pharaoh is the one born, kind of like going through a rebirth to be born of the gods, to be their representative on earth, to become the divine human in a way. That's what Egypt is, a very, like the very ancient, all the reliefs and everything that it's very shamanic. It's, you know, it's animals, it's nature, it's medicine, it's plants, it's the symbolism within nature. Okay, so this rising up, the Caduceus, and then being sat at the head, protecting the head where the pineal gland is, the third eye, the vision, yeah, protecting and giving that higher vision. So the venom helps us to the poison element. We can tune into that for helping to alchemize the things that we are going through, turning negative emotions into ones that we feel, embody, and find a different outcome from. So they strike fast and on target with their prey. It's very rare a snake will miss its target. So, and sometimes they bite to disable their prey, but other times they bite out of defense. And so you can imagine yourself, are you defensive? Do you jump to things too soon, too often sometimes? Is that a little bit, you know, but do you hit your mark, but maybe you didn't really need to actually be aiming there? These kind of things you can feel into. Okay, and then lastly, one of the most deep and meaningful teachings that I went through and I still share is from the Moon Eye Key. And one of the processes, opening sacred space within the Moon Eye Key, you call to the directions, and the serpent is to the south, the snake, the serpent. And I love the reference of the serpent, the snake, walking softly on the earth. So it's very aligned with the earth, very connected to the earth. And that's through this, if you think of the snake's body and the snake's skin, doesn't nothing will stick to the snake's skin, but it can slither across the earth, and it's its soft underbelly. You know that saying of like, that's our vulnerability. So the serpent has its whole body, its whole underbelly on the earth, like this deep trust with the earth. And so imagining moving gently and softly with the earth, like staying very grounded, very aligned with nature, right? And then that takes me into like the feminine qualities of serpent energy. Life force, kundalini, shakti. And it's all about rising. And that's what, for me, that's what feminine energy does. The masculine energy is, it pours down, and it's quite direct, and it's quite penetrating, you know, like the rays of the sun. It's this big, bold heat and divine presence in the sky that just beams down its rays. Whereas earth, feminine energy, opens to receive. It is about that vulnerability. So it opens to receive the rays of the sun, and it rises up. Everything from within the earth rises up to meet that light. Yeah. So the kundalini, the life force energy, is about this rising, yeah? And then that takes us back to the Caduceus. It starts, the tail of the snake is at the bottom, and it rises up. And then imagining this, the Caduceus is this, your chakra column, this pillar of light within you, so this staff, this strong penetrating strong magnetic energy. This is why I see the two serpents as the feminine rising up and around it and creating this sacred harmony between the masculine and the feminine, the serpents and the pillar. So we are all familiar with this kind of concept of the kundalini energy lying dormant within our base centers, our root chakra, if that's what you prefer to call it. I call it the base. And I know some people refer to the base as this place where we store our mastery. Our mastery could also be seen as our life force energy. For me, the crown and the base are connected through will. Okay, you know how we talk about we have will to, it's our will to live, our will to be. The base center is responsible, governs our will to live in the physical, to be the sacred vessel, right? That's our choice, our will to be here. And the crown represents our divine will. And so a lot of things that may have been coming up around this, leading into this, as well as the shedding, could be this sense of safety around what home means to you and how safe you feel in your body. And safety is a tricky one because it doesn't always just appear in your mind like, oh, I feel a bit unsafe, I'm going to figure that out. You just feel very unsettled. You feel very like the concept of safety is so deep in the childhood complexities of traumas, even minute traumas, you know, like just even from as tiny as a baby having to cry for too long, all this cry it out business is just creating a sense of unsafety in children, in babies. And so a lot of that may have been coming up for you. You may have been working on your home, working on your body as those reflections of one another, and finding that earth foundation, fundamental safety and security within yourself. And because what you're doing by doing that work on feeling safe and creating a safe environment around you and within you, is your base center is saying, I will it to be, I will to be here. And then your crown, which represents your divine will, your divine presence's will, sends down its energy to allow your soul to be within your sacred vessel. It's like such a deep integration, and that is what helps this kundalini energy to rise. Okay, so lots of base home security things may have been around you. You may be working really hard to build foundations of your home, your business, who you are, those kind of things. And this is all the first step of awakening that life force, that shakti, that kundalini energy, for it to begin to rise. Okay, and so yeah, there's a lot there to work with the snake, right? And that's what, you know, if you really feel this, I really feel this energy. I feel like this year's going to be very exciting in terms of doing this work. Like for myself, I feel like I have done a lot of the shedding process already, and I have done a lot of finding that safety within myself. And I feel like the next step for on my journey with this serpent kundalini life force energy is at the sacral. I'm learning to relate in a very different way to the person I was before my shedding, to who I have now realized I am becoming with this new vision. So that's where my work is focused, around how I relate in the world. I had to withdraw so much of myself to go through that shedding process, and then to come back out, like almost like a newborn and an infant, and then this child that's rediscovering. And it's, you know, when you take on that process of the child, it's actually quite an exciting thing to do. but the work at the base around that home safety element for your divine will to be in alignment with your physical will, and that seed of divine presence to drop down into your base and awaken that serpent energy for it to ready to rise and rise and come up and out. That's what this year is going to be. It's going to be like shedding that unauthentic self and coming into this humility, this impeccability of who you are. So, right, didn't expect to speak for that long. I really hope that this is helpful. Hope you can just do it in little chunks or whatever you need to do with it. Let me know what you think. Share it if you would like to. I would really appreciate that. Yeah, and I hope that's helped you. See you later.